Thanks for reading the Bible with me. We're working our way through the book of Luke, and today we meet one of my favorite characters, my second favorite character. Jesus, obviously, is my favorite, but we meet Simon, who will eventually be called Peter. We are reading chapter 5, verses 1 to 11, backtracking for the posts that I did before I was doing the videos, and I'm just going to dive right in and start reading Luke 5, 1 to 11 in the New International Version. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, with the people crowding around him and listening to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I'll let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boats to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." For he and all of his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken, and so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will catch men." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. Luke tells us Jesus was teaching, and people were gathering in hordes to hear the word of God, spoken by this humble man from Nazareth. While we should really take a moment to be impressed with how Jesus ingeniously made space for more people to hear him while simultaneously avoiding being pushed into the lake, I also want to take a step back from the scene to notice where Simon, James, and John are. Unbeknownst to them, they are about to step into a vital role in this narrative. But in this moment, while the shoreline is teeming with eager listeners, they're just trying to wrap things up after an unsuccessful night's work. Funny how Jesus often reaches for people who aren't even looking for him. These 3 men were chosen to become Jesus' closest friends and followers, but right then, they weren't even listening to his words. Sure, Simon was respectful and helpful when Jesus got into his boat and asked him to put out from the shore so he could teach from there. I imagine he sat listening from that point on. Did Jesus' words begin to uncover a need in him that was deeper than his need to go home and sleep? Presumably, Jesus had been teaching for some time when the crowds dispersed. He and Simon were alone in the boat on the edge of the sea. Simon doesn't have an inkling of the invitation he's about to receive. In all likelihood, his mind's consumed with a tired, aching back and a list of unpaid bills rather than Jesus' words. Jesus is gracious. He doesn't tell him off for being distracted. He gets Simon's attention by proving he can provide more powerfully and bountifully than Simon has ever imagined. He talks Simon into one more cast of his net. Simon's compliance is probably just respectful. He was a fisherman. Jesus was a talker. What did he know about fishing? But people seem to respect Jesus. Why rock the boat, or why not in this case? He humors Jesus. Suddenly, there are fish everywhere. He yells for his friends to come help. They are literally sinking under the weight of this provision. And now, Simon understands he has been humoring rather than actually paying attention to someone who, in fact, deserves worship. Simon understandably freaks out. His gut reaction is to run. He understands he does not belong in this man's presence. Jesus' response is to offer him a job. To be fair, he first tells him not to be afraid. That's a refrain he and we will hear often throughout this book. In fact, the job offer is more of an announcement than an offer. So Simon and his friends drop everything. Their nets, their boats, the amazing catch that got their attention in the first place, everything. And they follow. Somehow in that moment, they recognize something every believer has to recognize. Jesus is everything. Jesus is worth everything. If I'm being honest, I think I sometimes humor him. I go to church, I give my tithe, I do my devos. I think I'm doing him a favor by letting him in my boat. But when he catches my attention, when I glimpse his glory, suddenly I realize who I'm talking to. It's beautiful and frightening and humbling. It's worth everything. I need to look back and remember those moments, but I also need to look for them in my day-to-day life. His presence, his provision, it's in every meal I eat, in every breath I take. My family, my health, even in the tough things that shape and grow me. Depart from me, Lord. I'm a woman of unclean lips. Actually, no, never leave. Thank you for everything you've given me. Help me to see more and more clearly that none of it compares to knowing you. See you next time.